to memorize anything or rather to learn anything, one mode is, but whenever you hear, you like it at that point of time, but after some time you forget. This has given you a forced focus. So when you combine all these four, you get the best result, because that is important for your own memory. A strong connection, till the time that connection is strong, you have something in your mind. If that connection gets loose, there are various ways to maintain that connection, and one of the ways discussing that how we learn, until and unless we know our learning procedures, it is like machine chalani aati nahi hai, and we are thinking that we will produce the best products from our machines, but you will have to learn how to run that machine, or what is the process, how our brain works. So when we read something, so problem is we are not reading, if we are not reading in structured manner, understand how we learn. Even if we learn, like we keep reading, learning all of these things, yet when there is a time to reproduce, it's like ke bahut bada tha. To memorize anything or rather to learn anything, one mode is text, that is to read. Okay, how to read text, that is a different way of learning. Then there is another here, but again it has a different mode. Some of you might be watching, how many of you hear podcasts? You hear podcasts, like, so some people like to hear it 1x, some 1.5x and some at 2x. Now different abilities of perceiving the content, but whenever you hear, you like it at that point of time, but after some time you forget. Generally only 10% remain after some time, if you do not revise it, if you do not write it, or if you do not note it somewhere. Then next comes the audio visual mode. Audio visual mode is YouTube video, lecture, है ना. And audio video के अंदर अगर ये जो video है, मतलब audio video in the sense, if this is a person standing in front of you and speaking, that is a little more impactful. So offline is a little more impactful than online, because in online there is a disconnect, whereas जैसे कि if in offline इधर उधर देख सकते हो, ज़्यादा नहीं देख सकते. बीच में उठ के खाना खाने जा सकते हो, वहीं पे बैठ के खाना खा सकते हो, नहीं ना. You cannot eat here only, you cannot do lot of things because you have been restricted. I am watching you, big brother is watching you, you cannot do much. This has given you a forced focus, but this is not available in online. Online person has to keep their own discipline to be focused. So this means online is less effective than offline, but offline again, apart from this, any other mode? Only pictures come under this only. Any other mode? Your self writing, खुद लिखना. So when you combine all these four, you get the best result. Best result in the sense, to watch the lecture, when you are watching, you are hearing, at the same time you are writing. Whatever has stuck to your mind, whatever you feel it's good, you keep writing, and then when you go back, you read the text with this memory that has been generated. So when you hear, it creates only immediate memory. Immediate memory means exam se pehle, before just writing an exam, you people revise like maniacs. And whenever sometimes it happens that you have revised and immediately the question is there, so you just read and dhak se you write. This is immediate memory. But after some time, if somebody asks you, can you write it again? No, because immediate memory has a very short term effect. It is it's the system, or rather it's the machinery of your mind. This is how it is designed. Go on internet if you have time and try to understand how your brain learns. You are in the business of learning, and if you don't know how your brain learns, this means you will always be struggling with the learning thing. So immediate memory. But if you revise it again immediately after watching a lecture, it creates a short-term memory. Short-term memory means which remains there for some 6-7 days. Within 6-7 days, if you immediately keep revising, or if you revise it once or twice, it will remain for 1 week, for some people 10 days, depending on the focus that you have given. But if you create a revision schedule and all the 4 modes, then it goes into your long memory. ABCD सुनाओ. कैसे आई? Subconscious. Did you even think? No, it has gone to your subconscious because it has developed itself into a long-term memory. Similarly, constitution सुनाओ. All the schedules of constitution. Tell me. Not there? Not there. You have to think. Because some of you have it in your short memory and some of you have it in your immediate memory. I have just listened to the class. Fine. But if it goes into your long-term memory, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, aise. This is the difference. Fine. So try whenever we are, so this whole story was because that whenever you are hearing something, if you find something useful, write in your notes. How many notes? Howsoever good notes somebody has given it to you. Always write something, because that is important for your own memory. Because when you read what you have written from your own hand while listening to the lecture, it creates another what you say layer. So in your neurons, this is the shape of neuron. Fine. How does a neuron remember? It's just a cell. How does it remember? It triggers electric signals through the use of acetylcholine. Okay, fine. So basically, each neuron learns through the connections it has made. Connections it has made means the more connections a neuron makes, the better your memory is. A strong connection, till the time that connection is strong, you have something in your mind. If that connection gets loose, you vaguely remember something. हाँ तो सही coach, I know, but I'm not sure, I'm not getting it. When the connection is lost, you forget. So that connection, there are various ways to maintain that connection, and one of the ways to reinforce that connection is to have multiple modes of learning simultaneously. You are hearing, you are seeing, you are writing simultaneously, and when you memory you have created through this, when you read it again at home, it immediately takes you with that to that same connection. समझ में आ रहा है? Okay. You know how our mind works. How many of you have any knowledge about learning processes? Okay. So, in simple terms, when you read something or when you take a lecture or all these things, so there are these neural patterns that form. है ना? So there are neural patterns that form in various parts of our brain. And when you recall, so information is gathered from all these centers, all these places, and then there is a place in our brain where all of this information is articulated, put into a structure, and then you present it. But problem is that all these nodes that we have, what has happened, but something has happened. And that is why the connection is getting loose again and again, but don't worry, I have kidnapped the Airtel and the Spectra people, so we have two internets here and still we are facing this. So there is this Airtel and Spectra, both of them with big corporate plans, and still I don't know what has happened with the wiring. So these people are looking, and I will not let them go till they correct it today. So most probably it will get corrected. So we were discussing that how we learn, you know, until and unless we know our learning procedures, it is like machine chalani aati nahi hai, and we are thinking that we will produce the best products from our machines, right? But you will have to learn how to run that machine, or what is the process. So even if you give a smartphone, so if you give a smartphone to a tribal person, what happens? What will they think? So you know, you gave a very hi-fi smartphone with all the AI integration, and a person who is living in a forest, who has never seen anything of the outside world, you give him this. What will be his first thoughts? It's useless. What will they do? So they will try to use it as a stone or some instrument. Else, if light flickers, what will be their next thought? A miracle. Torch to pata hai nahi na unhe. Miracle. They might start even praying it. Right na? They will think, you know, something, God, you know, something has happened so beautiful in our life, and they might even pray and imagine some rituals around it. And after some time, it will become dead, of course. Battery chali jayegi na. So can you understand this? So if we don't understand how we learn, even if we learn, like, you know, we keep reading, learning all of these things, yet when there is a time to reproduce, it's like कि बहुत बड़ा था, है ना? अब मैंने अभी भी डिस्कनेक्ट हो रहा है क्या? हमारा ओके है? हाँ, अभी हमारी गलती नहीं है अभी. हाँ. Okay, I'm audible. It's fine now. Okay. So how our brain works? So when we read something, है ना? So problem is we are not reading. If we are not reading in structured manner, what happens? Supposedly you read a small ethics terms from here. You read something from there. Some books, some notes here, there. You have read it from 20 places, and you have not structured it properly. What happens? This gets stored in distant nodes in our brain. दूर दूर जाके वो स्टोर हो जाते हैं, and each information is connected to some other kind of information. Each information is connected to some other kind of information, and to retrieve this information, we have to follow that pathway. It is like there is a pathway. So if you have read this thing with a particular topic, supposedly you have read an example with the topic of attitude. Until and unless while you are reading attitude, you have also thought about that I can also use it in examples of ethics, or I can use it in examples of aptitude, or in the case studies also. The brain is not knowing that you can use it here and there. So what happens? This node is stored. It is stored in your brain. You can access it, but not at random, not in a short span of time. If you will give yourself time to think, you know, if I give you half an hour brainstorm, this will come easily. But you have to write answers in 7 minutes, and in that 7 minutes, what all you have to do? First, I read the question. Second, understand the question. Then decode the question in the sense what exactly it is asking, what is the tone of the question, and after decoding all this, you brainstorm, or you make a structure, like in which structure I will present my answer. Then you think of an intro, then you write an intro, then you make subparts of your body, then you give body, and then you write examples, make some flowcharts, and then you write conclusion according to the demand of the question. And whether then you also have to see the articulation, language, presentation, logical structure, all of this in 7 minutes. If the retrieval time of information from your mind is too long, you must have read it, but you will not be able to express it. Simple. ऐसा नहीं है it's not in your mind. It is in your mind. but you will have to keep it accessible so that the moment you see a question, your mind knows that what it has to write, what example it has to write, what point it has to reproduce. And this takes, number one, of course, practice. Secondly, the structured way of reading. Structured way of reading in this sense. So, why are we doing all these terms first? To make a structure in our mind. What different terms actually mean. So, if you know how belief system is different from ethics, or how morals are different from ethics. So, if the question comes, some actions may be moral but not ethical. Comment. Now, you already have a structure made in your mind. What are morals? What are ethics? You have the examples ready, and then you have the structure ready in your mind कि कहाँ से मुझे morals के examples निकालने हैं, how I have to take the examples of ethics. So, it's a structured reading that we do. So, not just in ethics, any subject you are reading, always first understand the structure, that in what structure you are going to read it. So, what happens if you read in a structured manner? The moment that thing is asked, anything associated with this node is asked, then anything associated with this node is asked, usko nahi पूछेंगे. So, what happens? Everything, all the information comes quickly. So, now before you read a book or anything, first make your own structure. So, do you see index? Very important part. So, first make an index. So, whenever I teach, I generally make this. I must have made this yesterday, or rather आज हम बनाएंगे इसको, ऐसे वाले जो flow charts बनाते हैं हम. So, why do we make such flow charts? To organize our information. So, supposedly you are reading some topic. Supposedly let's take, यार तुम लोग मुझसे ethics पढ़ लो, फंडे मत लो. लेकिन it's like supposedly you are reading polity. So, before you read governor, what are the right questions you should ask? Is it a central or a state personnel? Comparison with president, articles, which powers, any limitations which must be imposed over him, how, if there is an oath, how he can be removed, what is the eligibility, what in a manner. So, all of these points, now you arrange these points in a story format. Supposedly, there is person X who wants to be a governor. So, what is the eligibility? Supposedly, that person comes and asks you, here I want to be a governor, what is the eligibility to become a governor? So, you must know as a civil servant. So, what is that eligibility? Whatever it is. Can you understand? Then he says, where have you found this eligibility? Where have you found it? C. Then, what will I get if I become governor? Some powers. How will I be appointed? Who will appoint me? समझ रहे हो? So, if you understand in this manner, will you ever forget? Step by step. Once you read, you understand, and there is a story attached to it. This technique of memorizing and learning is known as memory palace. Well, you don't have to go into deep details because you people are it will take a lot of time, but yes, this is the simplest version of memory palace, how you form, and this is especially useful in UPSC. ठीक है?